Okay, boys and girls, today's project is to install a Talon grip, Talon rubberized grip, as opposed to the Talon grit sandpaper grip. This rubberized grip is going to be installed on this frame, which is the frame of a Smith & Wesson M&P 45, full-size 4.5-inch frame. So, first step is, and this is going to be a sort of a dynamic process here, I will attempt to edit this video so that you don't have to watch quite as so much of the painful steps, however, so that we do see all of the important steps. Alright, so first thing we want to do, get it good and clean, and I'll edit this down, but basically I'm going to take an alcohol wipe that is provided by the good folks at Talon, and I'm going to wipe down all of the area where we're going to apply the new grip. Our frame should be pretty clean from alcohol. Now, one of the instructions for the M&P that's important is there's a dotted line here. You should be able to just make that out on the video here. See right along here there's a dotted line. Now they instruct that if you have the medium or small size backstrap installed, you are to cut along these dotted lines on both sides. I do have the small backstrap on, so I'm going to cut along this dotted line, and I have a funny feeling that I'm going to need to cut even more before I'm done, because I've done a few dry holds, you know, where you match up the pattern, the material to the gun, and there's definitely a lot of overlap, and we do not want any overlap. The Talon instructions indicate that if you overlap this rubberized grip, it will tend to want to peel, so we definitely don't want that. Okay, so what we want to do is hold this up. Now this one I have done the Talon sandpaper grips on 2 Glock pistols. You may have seen the videos for that, for each of those, a 17 and a 34. Those were relatively easy. There was a little bit of learning curve, but relatively easy. This one I think is going to be a little more complex, and the reason is we have some things we need to match up to, like these emblems. The Smith & Wesson emblem or logo that's stamped into the frame or molded into the frame has to match up on both sides, or it's going to look stupid. We don't want it to look stupid. We want it to fit nicely around our magazine release guard. And of course the other thing is we want to make sure we don't have any overlap on the back. And now I'm already seeing that we're going to have significant overlap. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to wind up doing some trimming as I fit this together. So this should be interesting, to say the least. I will take you along for the ride. We'll see how this goes. And you know, these are about $15 a piece. So I guess worst case scenario is I screw up and I'm out 15 bucks. Best case scenario is that it works right the first time. Now the hard part obviously is going to be unsticking this backing. Come on, come on. Now one thing I learned from the sandpaper grip Talon was that there's no point trying to partially peel the backing even though that seemed like it might be a good idea, there was really no benefit trying to do that, and ended up being harder. So what we have here is a failure to communicate. All right, I am going to do my best to get this on here. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is I think I might start with one of these. Back over here in frame. I might start, if I can, right around one of these emblems. Now, let's see if I can wrap that around the front. I'm hitting low, so I need to unstick a little bit, come in again, and get that where it needs to be. Now the question becomes, am I too loose everywhere else? You don't want any slack, you don't want any spare air underneath. You want this very snug. So there's a lot of cuts and grooves in this compared to the Glock version, which I guess is, you might expect, part of that is due to the design of the M&P. Part of that is going to be due, I think, to just the nature of the shape that it has to fit to and conform to. See, there we get some more air. We don't want any air. Oh, look at all that. Wow. Look at all that slack we pulled up there. Okay. See, I'm getting some here that I don't like. Patience is a virtue when it comes to this sort of work, which is really unfortunate for me. That's never really been, I've almost never had anybody come up to me and say, you are just too patient. Okay. I'm working this around. I'm really using, you know, my methodology may not be the best, but I'm really using these two circular emblems on either side as my anchor points. A couple of reasons. One, they are definitely a fixed position. And the other is that they are the thing that will look the stupidest if they're wrong. So, now, we have come to the back strap area, and the question is, we're going to have overlap, so the question now is, do I want to try and trim half from each side so that we have a nice center line, or do I want to lay one side down and try and trim the other to butt up to it? in which case it will not be on center. I think I might try going, let's see. Okay, trim. Let's see, maybe trim a little bit off this one. Okay, that might be close to all right. One thing I'm noticing is it feels like I'm losing my adhesion here on this tape. I think the tape is getting impatient with me. See? You see that? You see? They talk about patience being a virtue. Here I am being all patient, working like a surgeon. And the tape is losing its adhesion. It is being impatient. Alright. How's that look? That's not bad. That's not bad. These little bits want to stick to my fingers. Okay, now a very important part of this process is to hit this with a hairdryer. Get it good and warm. Let it mold itself and continue to press, or as I like to call it, smush. So okay, what that does is, the purpose of using the hairdryer is to get this nice and warm, very, very pliable. And you just want to continue to press firmly all around. Basically, you're just pressing straight down. You're not trying to move it or slide it. I'm trying to spend a lot of extra time on the back strap here, because this is the seam that we made. So this is where the two halves, or the two ends of the pattern come together and create a seam. So this is the place that's going to be most likely for us to have problem if it wants to start to peel. And as I was trimming it and fitting it, I noticed that the adhesion was starting to kind of tire or wear out, so I'm a little extra concerned. Definitely looks like I still have one area here where I might have a little bit of overlap. What I do not want to do right now, though, is unpeel it to try and deal with that. I think I'm going to have to take my chances, because my gut tells me that if I tried to peel this back to reposition it or trim it in any way, I would probably lose what's left of the adhesion underneath it. So let's hit it with our dryer again, get it warmed up, and keep at it. Okay, it's got a pretty good feel. It's got a pretty good feel to it. It's definitely a different feel than the sandpaper version, obviously. But it's got a pretty good feel to it. Now, one thing I probably will do when I'm done is I will wipe this down on the outside with alcohol. and it is probably good to do that occasionally, periodically, whenever it gets dirty. I'm going to hit this one more time with heat. Smush, smush, smush. Smush, smush, smush. You're smushing. You know, the instructions do not contain the word smush. I am going to have to suggest to the good folks at Talon Grips that they edit their instructions to include the word smush, because I think smush is a really cool word. And I think the word smush very adequately and properly describes the technique. Okay, boys and girls, I think that might have it. Now let's put this slide on. Look, everybody can see. Make it look like a pistol. Oh, now there we go. How's that look? It's not bad, huh? Not bad. It feels pretty good. You say I'm gonna wipe it down with some alcohol, since I've been working my hands all over it. All right, so that feels pretty good. I think it's going to feel even better after I rub it down with some alcohol. All right, so installation of the Talon rubber grip on a Smith & Wesson M&P 45 seems to be a success.